Hello, and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the comedy podcast where we speak to creators, performers, and comedians from across the comedy globe. Now, today's guest has come all the way from South Africa to be in this podcast. She has the first name of a very famous singer who I love the song of, Sophie Ellis Bextor, and she has um, a name after a song that I like that's quite romantic to men and women called Me and Mrs. Jones. So her name is Sophie Jones. She is a theatre maker, a production maker, and a comedian based all the way in South Africa. And she, with a group of friends, has brought this production company, theatre company, all things entertainment, Spark in the Dark, whose main aim is to take people away from the screens and bring people to the love of live performance. Please welcome Sophie Jones.
Well, Marvin, I think that's the best introduction I have ever had. I will only be introducing myself as Sophie Ellis Baxter, me and Mrs. Jones from now on.
Please do, and make sure you put the backdrop on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done the podcast a few times, and I've tried to get a bit of feedback on little areas to get better on. And some community says, "Listen here, Sonny Jim, you need to talk where you're at. Don't try to big them up like they're a big star." But I want to make people feel like fish and chips. No, not fish and chips. I want to make the guests feel awesome, and I want to feel awesome.
I would love to feel like fish and chips. Please, can you make me feel like fish and chips?
Okay. Well, first of all, put a bit of oil, put a sort of pepper.
Okay, never mind. Scratch that.
Sorry. And now your boyfriend is going to beat me up for saying something that could be taken the wrong way. I'm
No,
sorry,
you're forgiven.
Sophie's boyfriend. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just bit of banter. I apologize, all right? Even though you could
I
probably
asked for it. I asked for it. I walked into that one.
apologies, Sophie's boyfriend. What's his name? Okay, so I just call it. Should I just call your boyfriend Sophie's boyfriend? Not in names or anything. Just call him Sophie's boyfriend.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Apologies, Sophie's boyfriend. So, Sophie, it's a great to have you on. But for anyone that doesn't know about you, just tell us a bit about yourself, like how you got into comedy and like how you got to where you are today.
How I got into comedy, when I was 19, I went on a booty call from the city I live in, Cape Town, to a city on the other side of South Africa called Pretoria by bus. Uh, Now, the UK I think is quite small. South Africa is substantially bigger. But the place I was going to, Pretoria, one could say it's perhaps the equivalent of going from London on a 20-hour bus ride to somewhere like Devon, or I don't know, is Devon kind of cool? What is old, boring, and conservative in the UK?
Oh, boring and conservative in the UK. Windsor? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, but more boring, less fancy.
Um, Let me have a think. Give me 1 second. Let me have a think. Where
Oh,
is a
let's
place?
just
I'd say, yeah, let's say Devon. Devon's boring, yeah.
okay. Sorry, Devon, but you're getting it. Uh, so on this 20-hour bus ride for a booty call, I thought a lot about my decisions. Eventually got there, and it was as disappointing as it could be. And I wrote, in order to deal with the the shame and humiliation of making such a stupid choice, I took out my ukulele and wrote a song called Follow Your Heart, but Not to Pretoria. And that kind of became my, I guess, yeah, like smash hit, one hit wonder, got me onto the scene. And as I'm sure all stand-ups know, like once the bug bites, the itch don't go away. So I just started gigging a lot and watching a lot of stand-up, and I was job shadowing at a theatre, a comedy festival, and I watched the same show every night for about a month. And I noticed that the comedians would do exactly the same bit down to not even a word, down to the punctuation mark. And each audience thought they were saying it for the first time and they were delighted. And I realized the more slick you are, the more improvised it looks, the more you've practiced it. So then I set myself a challenge of doing 100 open mic slots in 5 months, which is like 3 a day. 3 a week, not a day. And I did, and that was a crazy challenge, but it was great. And I upskilled a lot, and I tightened that tight 5. And then that's how I got into comedy.
Okay, and what was the first moment that made you fall in love with comedy as a performer?
Oh, wow. I've always had my family was always very funny. My mom has a great sense of humor, and I definitely get that from her. I also, when I was 18, learned about clowning for the first time in Mauritius, which is the little island in the Indian Ocean where my mother is from. And I think that, I would say, is when I first fell in love with laughter and comedy and the potential for comedy, because clowning is its whole own ball game, and something I hadn't been exposed to in South Africa before then. And I was performing as a clown with a Russian circus in Mauritius, which was fun and wonderful. And I think that was the moment I put on the white face and the big red nose, and I thought, this is an art form I could make love to.
Okay, good.
Which, and I don't know if I added this to my bio when I sent you. Well, did I send you a bio? I don't know. But my favorite act is a clown burlesque act. My clown stripper name is Fanny Fantastic. And I do clown burlesque, which I find a lot of fun. It's my favorite of all comedy.
Okay, what is, for anyone that doesn't know about it, because I have interviewed a few clowns on the podcast, but there's a lot more to it, because I know that a lot of people in the stand-up world think that it's all from the Gaudier style of clowning, and it has a certain set, but I'm known through the people that I've been on the podcast there's a big talk about American clowning, European clown, which I'm going to go more into. But like, what is clown burlesque?
For me,
How is it
clowning,
different? How is it different to regular clowning or stand-up?
I'd say clowning is the art of failing, and burlesque is the art of seduction. And clown burlesque, by default, is the art of failing at seduction. So the whole kind of sketch is just a series of uh, sexy, seductive stripper moves that go horribly wrong. Um,
Oh,
I'll leave
okay.
that to your imagination.
Okay, so what I've got,
The look of horror on your face, Marvin.
I don't know what, I mean, I know what it is for a guy, but what's it like? What's to what you interact with a male, female audience when you go, oh, what they love, and then that's it. So how does it work when you're doing the clown?
I guess a nice example is I do like a little strip tease, but the clown actually is wearing 30 pairs of pants, so it just never stops, and it's like goes on for the whole song, just taking off pants and pants, more pants, more pants.
And what what is the key to so what let me think about that. Yeah, that's interesting. Is it what are the rules of clown burlesque as opposed to regular clowning? How do they differ?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess clowning is just you can fail at anything. The reason I choose to do clown burlesque is I once took burlesque class, and I just felt really awkward, like I wasn't getting anything done, and I wasn't being very sexy, and I love clown anyway, and I thought this was a funny outlet, like bad,
Uh,
bad burlesque.
that must be that's amazing. Is it from what I had a drag act on the episode before this, which I'm going to
Oh,
upload this Sunday. Um, and I spoke to a cabaret artist in the Edinburgh Fringe. She said when she'd learned cabaret, and this is a bit like what goes on in clowning, is that being in the moment. Is there, what am I getting at here? Yeah. So is it mostly all crowd work and being in the moment, playing with the audience, or is there like a set structure that you put in place to get the same results?
I think the thing with that I love about clown that I don't get in stand up is I can have a set structure, but it's it's all in the moment. I've always found this with clown, like when you put on the nose and the makeup. I studied clowning at RADA uh, many years ago, and we did this exercise where you kind of go into a bit of a trance. So my most recent solo show, I was doing a series of like clown hour-long shows with just clown sketches. And I'd come out after the show with like, one time I had like a massive bruise all down my leg, and I have no idea how I got it. um, I think I fell down over some chairs because I like climb into the audience and like climb on top of the audience and feed people cheese if they get the correct answer, like little blocks of cheese, like lab rats. Um, and sometimes people do different, yeah, you don't know what to expect when you're interacting with an audience. So it's very adaptable. But I think when you go into a clown state, you kind of just, it's very childlike. So you just respond with joyful innocence to any reaction you get and just go with it. Uh, and yeah, I'm very in the moment when I'm in that zone, and it's lovely. It's so fun. Um,
How do you get your head clear before you go on stage and to be in the moment?
that is a great question, and it takes a lot. I like to kind of be a bit by myself in the zone and do a lot of physical warm ups. I do a lot of vocal warm ups and humming. I've got a little mantra I'll say to myself, but I would not undervalue or underestimate the importance of like some time to be in the zone.
Okay. And do you do stand up as well, or is it mostly that's what your area is? Do you do interact between two? Because I know there's a comedian, great comedian. His name's Benjamin Bello, but he sometimes performs the president of Bunjo, pretend of Laughter Republic, and he performs it himself. Do you do the same sort of thing, like you do straight stand up as Sophie, and then burlesque cabaret as funny Fanny Fucker, right?
Fanny Fantastic.
Fanny Fantastic.
Yeah, I do both. I also have a kid's birthday party act called Annie Fantastic. Very different from the Fanny Fantastic. Totally different girls, twin sisters, but they do not know each other. Um, very PG show for the kids' birthdays, as opposed to the late night show. Um, but yeah, I do. They are different acts. Sometimes I've tried to do some clown stuff on a stand-up stage, and I think the clowning scene isn't as big in South Africa. So I think people are like, "What the fuck?" But I love that. I live for it. I live for it.
But that makes you stand. There is in London. I think there's too many of them. No, I'm joking. It's
Clowns or stand-ups?
both.
Oh,
No, because stand out so much. I mean, it must bring you both. Well, I mean, strong good things and strong bad things because you are so unique on the bill. You got. I mean, I know I hear a lot on the podcast that there's a lot of pure stand-up saying, "Listen here, Sonny Jim, who ain't fucking joke. It ain't a fucking act." But then you got others where it's they like to have a bit of variety. Um, so you must have a lot of opposing views on it, like in terms of really for your act and those that are not against, not for it on the circuit.
I think I think I've been pleasantly surprised with the support. Like a couple of times I've bombed really hard with the audience and it has been awkward and horrible. Although I'll say so my theatre career kind of like kickstarted in 2022 and I wrote a solo play that I brought to the Edinburgh Fringe. It was called Ile, meaning island, and it was quite autobiographical about my Mauritian island heritage. And I did theatre for like 2 years and I didn't have much time to do stand up. And then I came back to stand up with all these clown ideas, which were a lot of which were inspired by things I saw at Ed Fringe. And I became so used to like doing the show and knowing the show well, knowing that I couldn't fuck up because I knew the words, knowing that I knew exactly when everyone was going to laugh and how it was going to feel, and the sense of safety, but also lack of surprise that came with being on stage. So when I came back to stand up and started to do this weird experimental stuff, like the one idea I had that has never worked in front of a crowd, but that's just because I haven't tried enough times. And one day I'm going to figure it out, but I wanted to do a tight five of silence. So like just all the jokes and the punchlines be in my facial expressions. And I kind of set it up. I'm like, I'm going to try to do the impossible, a hilarious tight five of silence. And then I just stop talking and I just hold the mic. And I thought they're going to look at me. They're going to feel awkward. I'll do like progressively more terrified facial expressions. And instead, everyone just took out their phones and was like, this is weird. And I'm just standing there like, and now that I was fucked. And about 3 minutes in, someone stand up in the back shouted, tell a joke, which is a deserved heckle. But as humiliating as that was, which it was, there was something thrilling about doing something that I wasn't sure if it was going to work and accepting the punishment of bombing. It felt like skydiving and you're never quite sure if the parachute's going to open. So I'm a bit addicted to the adrenaline of it.
Yeah. And what's the thing that I want to get at? So what the adrenaline of it either going well or going badly.
Yeah. And the adrenaline of the uncertainty. Like you don't know which way it's going to go.
And how do you repeat the process? And when you find something that works, how do you keep the excitement up? What's your way of keeping it fun and exciting? Because there's so many things that I've heard from a great comic like Mr. C. He says, he says, and this is his words, treat comedy like it's your lifelong partner. Don't call her your missus or anything like that, because you've got to grow with it and you've got to keep changing it. If you keep doing the same things, comedy is either going to lose you because you're not enjoying it anymore, or you're going to stop doing it because you're just going through the motions. What is your way of keeping bits that work and that are brilliant alive and working so you can do them again and again?
That's a great question. And I think it comes back to that being present. Like, if you are really present, it doesn't matter if you've said, I've done the same show 100 times. I mean, I did the tight five 100 times, but I've also done my one woman play Eel 100 times. And if you do it like it's the first time for yourself, it'll feel like it's the first time for the audience. And I mean, we all do this because we love it. So like, I've had times when I didn't want to go on stage, but I've never been on stage doing the show and didn't want to be there. And I love that idea that treat it like it's your life partner. Like, I think that's beautiful.
It is, isn't it? It's an amazing bit of advice.
Yeah. You must get so much great advice on this podcast.
It's a lot, yeah. It's a little lots of, it's more little tiny bits of bit information that can hone your act. But I wouldn't say it answers everything. I think because I'm different to that person, and what works for them isn't going to always work for me.
Sure.
There's little bits though, like that I mentioned you before about what Nick Rada said about like um like turning around a bad room, and what like Mr. C says. I mean, they're logical things that make sense, and I can apply it to my life. But in terms of it doesn't, it will never answer the full question of what it takes to be funny. It's just little things that it's like little things to the ladder of getting better at what you do.
Yeah. 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 I like
Uh,
that.
it's yeah, it's a fun little thing. What do you find about the comedy as a whole? I mean, it's got so many different people in it, and do you find that you learn a lot? You went to the Fringe this year, so what would you say acts from different fields that you learn a lot from, and why?
Ooh. Were you at the Fringe this year?
I decided screw that because I didn't have any money to go. No, it's the biggest thing is I didn't have a compelling reason to go. Like, there's a few people I know from the clown world that are going up there, but I'm not that close with them. Um, I'm not gonna just do something because people I know are doing it. I've got to see
For
like
sure.
what is like, am I gonna gain from it? And as I'm not doing a show, I didn't really put enough time into it, and it's a bit last minute. I thought, what would be the point in going up there and spending a lot of money? I think this year though, I've got a bit of a full plan of what I want to get, and it's very small little things. So I've got some ideas for shows, and I want to see how they sell. That is what I want to do. That's my main aim this year. So I will go this year, but maybe for a week or 2 weeks, but not for the whole
Yeah.
fucking thing.
I'll see you there.
All right.
Um, I was so inspired. I think it feels like at Edinburgh, everyone's like free to just experiment, and people will take it as far as they want to take it. Like they will, and that I find that just thrilling and wonderful and exciting. And um, I mean, every show for the last 2 years that has been like the pick of the fringe, I loved. And this year it was Gary Starr's classic Penguins. I went twice, like that blew my little mind. Um, Same with Ha 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 last year, Julia Masley's piece. Um, but also, it's always those little random shows. Like, still one of my favorites was Fancy Rat, which was in the Blunderbuss two
Ah,
years ago. Um, it was back this year, and I would have gone again. I didn't make it. Um, but I think what's cool about Fringe is that those weird little thoughts that you have are encouraged, and like chase that weird thought. Um, and sometimes it's hard to do that and hard to find your unique voice in an industry that's really competitive. Um, but Fringe rewards people who are the weirdest, and I love that.
no, good. I'm gonna go. That's why I need to keep going there. Yeah. No, I mean it's if you're in the performing arts or in comedy, I don't know about actors. I don't know about singers. From what I found about actors and singers, and I think I mentioned this to you before the podcast, they're a lot more filters and they know how to behave a lot more and appear more.
Ha!
Well,
I like that.
that's from me. That's from me, and I want to hear what your side of it. But comedians, I feel they're a bit more unhinged, and they're willing to be. There's all sorts that go on, and you see, yeah, a lot of comedians they stand up from your regular Joe. That's my perception. What is your perception of comedians, actors, and singers?
I'm quite a big fan of the school of life and the not like actually the school of actual life, like the YouTube channel and the the institution, and it's run by a guy called Alain de Botton, and he does a couple of TED talks, and they all explore love and attachment and early childhood development and why we are the way we are. And one of the things he says on parenting is you've done a good job as as a parent if your child has absolutely no desire to be famous whatsoever. Uh, so actors, singers, and comedians are all their own special brand of broken. Um, and I would maybe even say that stand-ups are the most of all, because stand-up is a very self-flagellating uh, art. You know, like there's something noble about acting and singing, but like stand-up, you just go up there at the risk of like public execution, and then sometimes you do die and they do kill you, and the next day you go again. And as much as it really hurts, like this, that's also fucking cool. Like, you know, you don't have to be Jesus to be resurrected. You know, just if you bomb really hard and you die, just wait 3 days and come back harder and stronger.
And how does that differ to acting or singing?
No one tells you if you're a bad actor while you're acting badly. Like, stand up people, firstly, not laugh, so you know. And secondly, like, if you're really bad, they'll go boo or they'll heckle you. Like, acting, at least the audience has the decorum to pretend that you aren't god awful. Like, in stand up, you know, if they think you're god awful, you know that they think that. um, so it's ruthless. I would also say of all the, because I do improv comedy, I do clown, I do theatre, and I've kind of got all my fingers in the different pots. And stand-ups are by far the most depressed of all those circles.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Who do you like the
And
most
I say
and
that
why?
with love, as a depressed stand-up. Like, I think it's a, but also the beautiful thing about stand-up is anyone can just stand up and do it. Like acting and singing often has walls. Like you have to be a good enough singer to pursue singing, but you don't have to be a good stand-up to do stand-up. Like you can just do it. Someone will have you on a lineup. And that's beautiful. I love stand-ups are depressed, and I love them, and I love us, and I love it as an art form. I think it's wonderful.
Who do you prefer out of all this, like theatre actors, singers, and comedians? Who do you prefer the most, and why? In your personal opinion.
A night with my friends from improv is most likely to be guaranteed as a good time,
Oh, okay,
because the philosophy is yes and you can really sense that vibe.
okay. Right. And comedians, it's more like a selfish zone, and like actors, maybe they keep to themselves, and singers, what are singers? Would
Oh,
you
I
say?
don't hang out with singers.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And I hear that music is the most dodgy out of all of them.
Oh, probably why. I wouldn't even know. I've kept myself safe.
Good. Um, and for being in South Africa and doing comedy and the scene over there, like, what is the myths about South Africa, and like, how has South Africa shaped your type of humor? Like, what are things about
Wow.
South Africa that you don't expect? I know that people often associate South Africa with crime, Nelson Mandela, and it being from what I've seen is a lot of South Africans are quite straight talkers, and they if what I've seen over here, if they think I'm a complete knob, they'll say so. But what's your take on like South African culture, and like how is it misunderstood, and how has it shaped your comedy?
Ooh, wow. Well, South African culture, I think the wonderful thing of South Africa is there's so many cultures, and even in the diversity of cultures, there's a sense of oneness between the cultures. Not always and not completely, because I don't think we've recovered from or undone the damage and the threads of apartheid that still live in our country and in our society and in our economy. Um, But South Africans have a resilience, and it's part of the reason I'm so determined to bring a South African season to Edinburgh next year, because no one, like, there is government funding, but like no one expects to get it. No one expects to have a budget for set design. No one expects to have a sound designer. No one expects to have a lighting designer. Like, if you're in a theater doing your first show, it's a damn small theater and they've got a really limited rig. And there's a really rickety ladder that you might die on while you change the lights. So when I meet some of my contemporaries in the UK, people have a producer and a stage manager and a writer and an actor, and for me it was like, you just do it yourself, like and you do it with nothing. Like, my first set was two wooden boxes, and I use the boxes in my play. I flip them over and I move them around and I turn them. One's a swimming pool, and then it's a volcano, and then it's a mountain, and then it's a desk, and then it's a bed, and then it's a jail, And I never thought much more about it than all I could afford was two boxes. And people have been like, what clever set design. And I'm like, no, I was just poor. Well, not poor, just broke. I think there's a difference. But as a result, South African entertainment relies on good acting and good writing to keep the play entertaining. So there aren't any bells and whistles, and it's raw. And as a result, I think the stories we tell are really enthralling. And I think the talent in my country is mind-blowing. And it's a crime that more of the world doesn't get to see it. Some people, yeah, you get this response like, oh, South Africa is dangerous. Like, sure, but just like, don't be a fucking idiot. Just be streetwise. I think it's a great place to visit. I think it's, come on holiday, come on tour, come. It's fantastic. See what we got going on down here, is what I would say. And how's it influenced my comedy? I think we have, part of being resilient is an ability to laugh at ourselves and an ability to laugh at terrible situations. And that knee-jerk reaction of laughter is something I got from my mom, but also something that's like a cultural thing. We have the best, Trevor Noah, like we crush that coal down hard and we make them diamonds.
He is brilliant, isn't he?
He is. I love him.
This is a thing that I've found through talking to Australians and Kiwis. They've got a little bit of banter where they say, "You can keep Russell Crowe." What's a little banter in South Africa between different states or with other countries? Like the UK has a bit of banter with France, a bit of Ireland. With what's like South African banter with neighbouring nations and with South Africa?
Damn. I don't think we got, hey? Like, we'll banter with whoever we're playing in the rugby, but then we'll whip their asses, so it's kind of the end of the conversation. But I wouldn't say we've got like anything similar really to a French versus English banter.
Okay.
Sorry.
I
don't have anything for you there.
What is a fantastic South African meal that people should try?
Everyone says boerewors. Actually, no, not everyone says boerewors. If I were to think of something that I could speak of from my culture as a white South African, I would say we've got really nice pesto.
Oh, lovely.
There's this brand called Ina Parman. She does great pesto. The bitch is fantastic.
And for anyone that's listening right now and they're like, they want to get a bit of, let's do this. What's a bit of life advice? What advice would you give him on the performer's journey?
I will quote what Patrick Stewart said to me when I was 18, and I ambushed him outside the stage door on the West End, and I asked him what advice he would give himself at 18. And he said, "Be brave. I wasn't for a long time, but be brave, fearless." And I never knew what that meant, but now at like 27, looking back, I wasn't as brave as I could have been. And maybe I couldn't have been because if I could have, I would have. But looking back now, I think I could have afforded to be a lot more brave a lot sooner and not hold back for fear of being controversial.
Hmm. And to infinity and beyond. Yeah. I do like the Next Generation. It's a good series. My dad butchered me when I was younger with Voyager and the other one. But what's if anyone that wants to find out about you, how do they find out about you?
um, you can follow me on social platforms, which are my handle on everything is at solo, like Han Solo underscore Joan, like the woman's name with an S. So at
Okay.
solo underscore Jones, like Joan of Arc with an S.
All right.
Um, yeah.
Well, if you want to know about Sophie, you know where to go. Hope you've enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you guys soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Marvin.